Long before stories were told and songs were sung, there lay a village hidden between two emerald hills, kissed by sunlight and cradled by the trees. This village was called Ojini, a name meaning those who are led by light. And truly, the light had always favored them. The heart of Ojini paused not in its markets or its wells, but in the Obara Grove, a mystical woodland known only to a few brave enough to walk its deeper paths. The grove was not ordinary. Its trees shimmered faintly under moonlight. Its wind whispered names. And in its center bloomed flowers with petals like crystal and dewdrops that glowed gold. The villagers called them elite blossoms. Bees, golden and as large as a fist, fed upon these blossoms. From their hives came nectar of Obara, a liquid said to cure disease, bring fertility, even mend a broken heart. It was their miracle. Their blessing. Their currency. Merchants came from kingdoms far beyond the dunes to buy the nectar, often leaving behind silver, silk, or sacred wood in exchange. But as the elders always warned, magic feeds on balance. And blessings, when taken for granted, curdle into curses. Ife, the listener. Among the people of Ojini was a girl named Ife, no older than 12, but as curious as the sun is bright. Ife had no parents. Her mother had died when she was born, and her father, a gatherer of herbs, was taken by the forest one monsoon season and never returned. Ife was raised by Auntie Moro, the village cloth weaver, who often said Ife had ears that heard what others ignored. This was not a compliment. Especially when Ife started hearing things in the trees. They whisper when the wind blows, she would say to the other children. You're cracked like an old calabash, they teased. Trees don't talk. But Ife would just smile and tilt her head, as if listening to something far away. The withering begins. One morning, the sky above Ojini wore a thick shawl of clouds, and the birds did not sing. Auntie Moro had just begun setting out her dyed cloth when she noticed a strange silence. Not even a single bee buzzed around the garden. That was odd. Ife noticed it too. She sat on the roof of their hut, as she often did when the chores were done early. She used to hear the hum of bees, the chitter of squirrels, the rustling of leaves thick with life. But now, silence. Where are the bees? She whispered. By dusk, word had spread. Several hives in the outer fields were empty. Not a single bee. The elite blossoms in those areas had withered, some blackened at the edges like they had been burned from within. The village elders gathered in the circle of stones, a sacred place reserved for meetings of great importance. There, the high elder Mama Didi, a woman with a voice like rain on a roof, listened as the villagers voiced their concern. We must send someone into the grove, said one farmer. Something is wrong. No, another argued. The grove is protected. We must not provoke it. This may just be a shift in seasons. Seasons don't kill bees, muttered Ife under her breath. No one heard her, except the wind. Whispers in the dark. That night, Ife couldn't sleep. The moon was full, yet the light it cast seemed pale, like it was tired. She stepped outside the hut, barefoot and silent, and wandered to the edge of the grove. The Obara Grove always stood silent at night. But not that night. As Ife stepped closer, she heard it again, a faint, drawn-out whisper that tickled her ear like a secret. Ife. The pact is broken. Her heart thudded in her chest. She spun around. No one. Who's there? She called, voice shaking. Silence. She took a shaky breath. Then, a second whisper called into her ears, softer but heavier. The old one has awakened. Ife backed away slowly, eyes wide. The trees didn't just whisper. They warned. Secrets under petals. The next morning, Ife ran to the only person she trusted with strange things, Uncle Toju, the old beekeeper. Toju lived on the forest edge, with hives stacked like tiny homes and nets hung like curtains. He was bent with age and smelled of honey and smoke. "There are whispers in the forest," Ife blurted out. "And the bees, they are not just gone. They are hiding." Toju studied her. "You heard the grove?" She nodded. He sighed. "Then it has begun." "What has?" she asked. He shuffled to a shelf and pulled out a dusty calabash wrapped in faded cloth. "I was told never to open this unless the bees stopped singing." Inside was a small wooden talisman, shaped like a curled serpent with a crown of flowers. It pulsed faintly, as if alive. "This," he said, "is the mark of Ajoka, the guardian spirit of the grove. Long ago, the founders of Ojini made a pact with her. They promised to honor her with sincere offerings and ceremonies, not out of habit, but love. But, we still have the spring ceremony," Ife said. Toju shook his head. "It has become a show. Singing without heart. Flowers without prayer. Ajoka is not cruel, but she is old magic. When you break a promise to old magic, it does not forget." He placed the talisman in her hand. "You're a listener, Ife. You heard her voice. That means she chose you." "Me? But I'm just a girl." "You're not just anything," he said, smiling gently. "Go. Listen. But be careful, not all that whispers in the dark is a friend." The awakening. Ife returned to the grove that evening. This time, she brought offerings, fresh honey, woven grass, and a song her mother used to hum. She stepped into the clearing where the oldest tree grew, a massive baobab with roots like riding arms. She placed the offering at its base, knelt, and sang softly. The wind stirred. The leaves rustled, though no breeze blew. And then, it came. A low, rumbling voice, like the forest itself had woken from a long sleep. "Daughter of the broken line. The curse is no longer sleeping. He stares in shadow." "Who?" Ife asked, trembling. "The one who once was kin, now scaled. He who betrayed the pact. He returns." Suddenly, a low hiss echoed from deep within the grove. A gust of wind blew out her lantern. In the sudden dark, Ife felt something move, massive, gliding through the underbrush with silent menace. She ran. The village watches. The next day, Ife stood before the circle of stones, talisman in hand. "I heard the spirit of the grove," she said. "The pact is broken. A curse is coming." The elders stared. Some scoffed. "A child's tale," muttered one. But Mama Didi, her eyes sharp as always, stepped forward. "Shumi." That evening, Mama Didi, Uncle Toju, and a handful of brave villagers followed Ife to the baobab tree. They saw the blackened blossoms, the cracked ground, and felt the cold air shift as Ife sang the same song. Nothing happened. At first. Then, the talisman in Ife's hand glowed. A wind blew so strong, it knocked the baskets over. The baobab cracked open slightly at the base, revealing deep grooves, like claw marks. Or scales. Mama Didi paled. "We must prepare," she whispered. "The old magic has awakened." The forest no longer whispered, it murmured warnings loud enough to make even the birds fall silent. Ever since the offering at the baobab tree, Ife had noticed strange changes. The air carried a different weight. The flowers in the Obara grove seemed to pause faintly at night. Mama Didi now walked with a wary staff, and Uncle Toju slept with salt circles around his bed. And yet, the rest of the village. Business as usual. Children played. Drummers rehearsed for the upcoming Festival of Bloomlight, an annual event that once honored the spirit of Obora, now reduced to ribbon dances, fire breathers, and far too many roasted yams. Magic likes meaning, Ife muttered to herself. Not performances. Scroll the shrine and the scroll. A few days after the glowing talisman incident, Ife followed Mama Didi to the old shrine, a forgotten building hidden behind thorn bushes near the grove's edge. It had once been the spiritual heart of Ojini, before the new meeting hall was built, complete with polished seats and imported fans from the coast. "Why are we here?" Ife asked. Mama Didi pushed aside the vines, her hands shaking. "To remember what we forgot." Inside, the shrine was dark, dust-heavy, and filled with the sharp scent of dried herbs and ash. Symbols were etched on the walls, ancient ones that no one read anymore. Ife moved slowly, her fingers brushing stone and wood. Then, beneath a cracked altar, she found it, a scroll, wrapped in dried serpent skin and sealed with wax shaped like a flower in bloom. She looked at Mama Didi. "Open it," the old woman said. Ife broke the seal. The scroll was old, so old the ink looked like dried blood, but the words were clear. "In the time of founding, we the first keepers of Ojini, bind ourselves to the spirit of Obora. We give offerings in unity and sincerity, no less, no more. We give not for show, but from truth. In return, she gives life, nectar, and peace. If the pact is broken, so shall peace be. Signed, Aleba the Brave, Nena the Voice, Ikemba the Shield." Ife's eyes widened. They knew. They made a deal. Mama Didi's lips were tight. "And we've broken it." "How?" "The festival was once a sacred offering. But now, men argue about who gets to dance first. The chief's son sings prayers while drunk. People chant while checking market prices. Obora knows when you mean it." Ife nodded, the words still burning in her chest. "Then it's not just the bees dying. It's trust." Quote enter, jail. That evening, just as Ife and Mama Didi prepared to share the scroll with the council, he arrived. He strolled into the village square like he belonged there, tall, lean, dressed in deep blue robes that shimmered oddly in the sun. His voice rolled like honey and thunder when he introduced himself. "I am Jail. A traveler. A storyteller. A healer of broken things." The villagers, naturally, loved him by sunset. He made the children laugh with tales of flying drums and invisible chickens. He fixed a broken cat with a strange powder. He even helped an old woman walk again, with one touch and a softly spoken word. "Magic," they whispered. But Ife watched him closely. There was something off. He never let anyone touch his cloak. Even in the heat, he never took it off. And once, when he passed near the flower fields, the petals shriveled behind him, just slightly. Not enough to notice. Unless you were paying attention. And Ife always paid attention. Snake the missing child. 2 days after Jail arrived, a child vanished. Little Temi, who had been chasing butterflies by the grove's edge, never returned. Her mother wailed into the night, calling her name until her voice cracked. The village searched. They found nothing, no footprints, no signs of a struggle. Only one thing, a single golden scale resting where the child had last been seen. The village grew quiet after that. No more laughter. Even the drums fell silent. But Jail. He stayed. He offered comfort. He told stories to calm the grieving. He smiled, and somehow, made everyone feel safe. Everyone, except Ife. Kinda suspicion grows. That night, Ife crept to Jail's hut. She carried nothing but a small lantern and a pouch of protective herbs tied around her waist. He was gone. Inside, the hut was cold. Strangely cold. The floor was perfectly clean, no sandals, no dust. Except for a strange circle drawn in the dirt. In its center, a feather, a thorn, and the small door. Temi's door. Ife's breath caught in her throat. She reached for the door. "You shouldn't be here." She spun. Jail stood in the doorway, his smile oddly tight. I was looking for a story, perhaps, he asked, stepping closer. His eyes gleamed in the lamplight, yellow. Not golden. Not brown. Yellow. Like a snake's. Ife clutched her herb pouch. You smell like the grove, she said softly. Jael tilted his head. The grove smells like old promises. Dusty things. Forgotten things. Dangerous things. Who are you really? She asked. Jael stepped into the light. The edge of his cloak lifted, just enough to reveal a flash of scales along his arm, glittering like obsidian in moonlight. Once, I was the voice of the pact, he said. The chosen one. The bridge between Obora and men. What happened? I lied, he whispered. I took more than I gave. And the forest took back. He reached out slowly. But now, I returned to restore what was broken. Ife stepped back. By stealing children. Jael's eyes darkened. The pact was with unity. But your people are fractured. The spirit needs one voice. One true offering. Temi was just a beginning. Ife ran. Honeybee warnings and resolve. She ran straight to Mama Didi's compound. Her voice trembled as she told everything, the scroll, the doll, the scales, the threat. Mama Didi didn't doubt a word. The spirit gave us nectar, she said. Now, we fed her poison. But what can we do? Ife asked. We need to remind the forest who we are. Not who we've pretended to be. The next morning, before the sun even rose, Mama Didi, Uncle Tojo, and Ife gathered the villagers in the circle of stones. They showed the scroll. They told of Jael's true form. They spoke of the lost child. And this time, the villagers listened. Full moon, the pact rewritten. Under the baobab tree, the villagers, led by Ife, sang not songs from memory, but songs from the heart. They offered not gold, but truth, confessions, regrets, promises. They poured honey on the roots and bathed them in tears. The tree trembled. The wind howled. And in the distance, the hiss of something ancient echoed through the grove. Jael had heard their defiance. And he was not pleased. The days that followed the village's awakening were filled with tension, like the forest itself was holding its breath. The sky remained overcast, the bees still silent, and the once bright flowers of Obora Grove had dulled into ghostly echoes of their former selves. And Jael remained. Still smiling. Still charming. But something in his eyes had changed. The warmth was wearing thin. Full moon slithering shadows. The villagers tried to go back to their routines, but peace was no longer a friend, it had become a ghost that only children dared speak of. Every morning brought new disappearances. Chickens. Goats. A dog that had once barked at everything now barked at nothing, then vanished in the night. The worst part. People began dreaming. And not the normal kind. They dreamed of slitted eyes and whispering scales. Of golden serpents coiled around their beds, watching them sleep. They woke with scratch marks across their backs or dusting of golden powder near their pillows. One girl, no more than 10, ran screaming from her hut, her eyes wild. It crawled under my skin, she cried, tearing at her arms. Mama Didi held a village meeting, her face grim. We are being watched. We are being studied. And the thing watching wears a man's smile. Paw prints a trail of vanishing. Ife, more than anyone, refused to ignore the signs. She saw the golden powder near her neighbor's doorstep. She followed hoof prints that led directly into the grove and simply stopped. And one night, she caught Jael in the act, walking alone toward the forest. No lantern. No cloak. Just moonlight glinting off something unnatural beneath his skin. She followed. Evergreen tree, the truth in the trees. The deeper she went into the woods, the colder the air became. Not the code of weather, but of something older, heavier. A magic that remembered. Jael stood at the center of a clearing. His back was to her, his arms outstretched. Around him, the trees seemed to bend inward, as if listening. Then, he changed. His body stretched. His skin shimmered. Scales bloomed like petals across his arms and neck. His legs vanished, merging into a long, coiled tail that moved like water across the earth. His face, still partly human, was tear-streaked. And strangely, filled with sorrow. I warned them, he murmured. But they never listen. Not until the scales appear. Ife, trembling, stepped out. Who are you really? Jael turned slowly. In his eyes, she saw centuries. I was once a forest guardian. A messenger between your people and the spirit of Obora. What happened? She asked. I believed I could carry power for the people, he said. But power, once tasted, changes the tongue. I betrayed the pact. I stole from the spirit's well. I was punished, bound to a serpent's form until the balance was restored. His voice dropped lower. But now, I am not the only cursed one. What do you mean? He looked at her with something like pity. The curse has passed into your village. Through choices. Through pride. Through blood. Who? She asked. Who carries it? Jael's face grew grim. The serpent doesn't choose blindly. It coils where it finds pain, grief, anger. The curse is a seed. And someone in Ojeni is letting it grow. Person running the race back. Ife ran like fire was chasing her. She didn't stop until she burst into the circle of stones where the elders were gathered. He's a snake, she cried. I saw him transform. And he says someone else carries the curse, someone in the village. The crowd murmured. Whispers flew like bees had returned. But the chief, a stern man named Boba Cole, stood tall. Young one, he said, we are not children to chase ghost tails and lizard skins. I saw him. Ife shouted. He said the curse spreads through pain. Through grief. Boba Cole shook his head. We will not cause panic. Without proof. And then it happened. Collision the transformation. From the crowd, a woman screamed. It was Edeora, the village baker. She clutched her chest and fell to the ground, convulsing. Her hands turned grey, her fingers stretching unnaturally. Get back, shouted Mama Didi. The villagers stumbled backward as Edeora writhed on the earth. Her mouth opened wide in a silent scream. Her eyes turned yellow. Then, scales. They sprouted down her arms, her neck, her back. Her spine cracked loudly as her form shifted. The transformation was swift but brutal. Within moments, Edeora was gone. In her place stood a massive serpent, its body coiled, its eyes shining with a bitter, ancient hunger. The crowd froze. The snake did not strike. It wept. Woman made echoes and explanations. Mama Didi approached slowly, whispering a prayer. Ife was right, she said. The curse is no longer whispering, it's growing teeth. From behind the circle of stones, Jael appeared. Not in full serpent form, but not fully human either. His eyes still shimmered gold. I did not cause this, he said. But I can no longer stop it alone. You cursed us, someone spat. No, Jael said. You cursed yourselves, by forgetting. Puzzle piece the truth unfolds. Edeora, once transformed back, spoke through tears. My son died last season. Bitten by a viper. I cursed the forest. I blamed the spirit. I stopped praying. I wish the trees would burn. Jael nodded sadly. And the curse heard you. It always does. Mama Didi looked around the gathered villagers. We must find the others, she said. Anyone who carries pain deep enough to feed the curse. But how do we stop it? Ife asked. Jael stepped forward. By facing it. By making the offerings that were meant to be given. Not just in song, but in truth. Fear unleashed. The transformation of Edora had set fire to the people's nerves. One moment, she was a baker known for honey bread and loud laughter. The next, a cold serpent weeping venom through human tears. Every smile became suspicious. Every prayer was doubted. She's cursed, someone yelled at a girl whose eyes glowed faintly in the moonlight. He hasn't spoken since the storm, must be hiding a tail, another accused of an old man with a limp. Mothers clutched their children. Friends turned to strangers. Even the trees seemed to lean back, wary of the madness blooming beneath them. Older adult elders in turmoil. The elders gathered under the withered shrine. Mama Didi sat in silence, her staff gripped so tightly the wood creaked. We must calm the people, one elder said. With words, another scoffed. No one listens anymore. A third leaned forward. We need the trial of flames. Gasps filled the circle. That test is forbidden, Mama Didi said. It hasn't been used in 3 generations. Because it worked, the elder replied. The trial reveals the truth. No serpent can hide in its light. But it hurts, Didi whispered. Even the innocent feel the heat. Better burned than beaten. Silence followed. Then, reluctantly, Mama Didi nodded. Then we do it at dawn. Fire the trial prepared. The villagers gathered under a sky as grey as ashes. In the center of the circle of stones, a pit had been dug and filled with sacred embers from the grove's oldest trees. Above it, a narrow bridge made of woven reed and blessed wood stretched over the flames. One by one, villagers would walk across. If they carried no curse, they would feel only warmth. But if the forest darkness lived within them, the fire would reveal it. Jael stood to the side, arms crossed, his serpent eyes watching with a weariness born of centuries. This will not cure fear, he muttered to Ife. Only amplify it. Then we'll find another way, she said. But we have to survive the truth first. Footprints the crossing. One by one, villagers walked the bridge. Some crossed untouched. Others trembled and sweated but made it. A few screamed, harmlessly, as the flames licked their doubts but not their souls. Then came Ebony. The healer's daughter. Quiet. Gentle. The one who brewed teas and sang lullabies to the sick. She stepped onto the bridge. The moment her foot touched wood, the flames rose. Not toward her, but away from her, as if recoiling. Then they surged in a circle around the pit, forming a ring of golden fire. The crowd gasped. Ebony froze. Her skin began to shimmer, like glass under starlight. She stumbled, falling to her knees. Her back arched, her hands clawed at her chest. No, she whispered. Not now. The glow spread. Scales burst through her skin, shining gold and deep green. Her eyes widened, slitted pupils gleaming. Her fingers curled into claws. By the time the transformation ended, a serpent of light lay on the ground, coiled and glowing like the sunrise. But it did not strike. It wept. Snake a plea from the cursed. I didn't want this. Ebony cried, her voice warped but still hers. I only wanted to save my brother. Gasps rose from the crowd. He was dying, she sobbed. Fever took him. The herbs weren't enough. I begged the forest. I offered part of myself. I gave blood under the moon. She shivered. And it answered. Jael stepped forward, voice steady. The curse does not come uninvited. But it doesn't care why it's welcomed in. The villagers looked at her, some in fear, others with pity. She didn't ask to hurt us, Ife said, stepping forward. She asked to help someone she loved. Is that a crime? She made a deal. Baba Cole snapped. A deal with forest darkness. And we made a deal too. Ife shot back. Centuries ago. With the very spirit that keeps the grove alive. We broke our promise. And she paid the price. Counterclockwise arrows button shift in the wind. Mama Didi raised her hand. Abeni, she said softly, if we choose mercy, will you help us heal the others? Abeni, still in her serpent form, bowed her great head. With all I have. Then we show the forest, Didi continued, turning to the crowd, that we choose healing over fear. Redemption over fire. It was quiet. Then someone stepped forward. I forgive her, said a farmer. I too, said another. One by one, the villagers began to nod. Some even wept. Because behind every curse is a wound. And behind every serpent, a soul once loved. Seedling preparing the path. As the sun sank beyond the trees, the flames in the pit died down, not in anger, but peace. Abeni caught beside the baobab, her glow fading gently. The curse was not gone. But it had stopped growing, for now. Ife, Jael, and Mama Didi sat by the sacred tree. We need more than forgiveness, Ife said. We need to rewrite the pact. Not just remember it, live it. Jael smiled faintly. Then the forest may yet forgive you. Didi looked to the sky. One final offering. One true ceremony. Before it's too late. Jael's face darkened. It may already be too late. Dawn before the storm. The sun rose slowly over Ojeni. Its golden light should have warmed the village, kissed the crops, and danced across the petals of the obora blossoms. But it didn't. The sky was still grey. The wind, still tense. And in the heart of the grove, something ancient waited, watching. Ife stood at the edge of the forest, her hands calloused from work, her heart heavy but hopeful. Around her, the villagers moved with purpose for the first time in weeks. They were not panicking. They were preparing. Hindu temple rebuilding the sacred. At Ife's urging, the people of Ojeni had agreed the shrine would be rebuilt, not as a spectacle, not for performance, but as a true offering. Stone by stone, word by word, the shrine was reborn. The elders brought out long-lost texts and songs. The children gathered blossoms and vines from the forest edge, placing them gently where no flowers had grown for days. Mama Didi sang as she walked. Her voice trembled at first, then grew steady. Even Jael, still half man, half serpent, helped, his hands callous from centuries of penance. And Abeni, now able to shift between serpent and human at will, brought the richest honey from deep inside the grove. This time, she whispered, we give not because we want something, but because we owe everything. Candle the final ceremony. At twilight, the entire village gathered before the new shrine. It glowed faintly, not from lanterns or torches, but from something within. Something old. Something waking. Ife stood at the center, her heart pounding. She had written the song herself, a song made not of rhymes, but truths. It began soft. A single note. Then a second voice joined. Then drums. Then dozens of villagers, raising their voices not in performance, but in memory, in love, in grief and hope. We were lost, but we listened. We forgot, but we remember. Spirit of the grove, we return to you. Not with gold, but with truth. The wind stirred. The trees bent inward. And then the ground began to hum. Up the spirit arrives. The air thickened, alive with ancient breath. The petals of the grove burst into full bloom in an instant, releasing golden mist into the air. And then, she appeared. From the root of the baobab, a form began to rise. The spirit of Obora. Neither woman nor beast. Her form was made of vines, stars, and light. Her eyes were deep pools of time. Her voice echoed through the bones of the earth. You have returned. Not as children seeking gifts, but as people bearing truth. The villagers knelt, not in fear, but in reverence. Only Ife stood. Milky Way the final confrontation. But peace had one final test. A wave of darkness emerged from the forest far edge, what was left of the broken curse. It took shape like a great serpent of smoke and shadow, taller than any tree. Jael stepped forward, ready to fight. No, the spirit said, lifting her hand. This curse was born of division. It must be undone through unity. Ife stepped into the path of the curse, arms raised. One by one, the villagers joined her. Abini stood beside them, still glowing faintly. She took Jael's hand. Mama Didi took hers. The circle grew. Together, they chanted the final words of the song. Let truth bind what was broken. Let unity cleanse what was cursed. We do not fear. We stand together. The curse screeched, a sound like 1,000 snakes unraveling, and dissolved into mist. The air fell still. The spirit smiled. Dizzy restoration. The petals shimmered. The bees returned. The flowers opened fully for the first time in weeks. The ground beneath the shrine pulsed with life. Water flowed again from the sacred spring. Obora Grove had forgiven them. The spirit turned to Ife. You have heard me when others forgot how to listen. You brought truth where there was fear. You will be my voice now. She reached out and touched Ife's forehead. A single flower bloomed there and disappeared. Seedling a new guardian. Ife blinked, overwhelmed. What do I do now? She asked. The spirit's voice was kind. Watch. Protect. And remind them that magic does not come from power, but from purpose. As the spirit faded into light, the grove swayed with joy. A new wind moved through the trees. A new season had begun. Orange Heart Epilogue, The Grove Lives. Months later, the village of Ojini stood stronger than ever. The shrine now held weekly offerings, not just gifts, but songs, stories, and shared meals. Abini became the official healer, trusted and beloved. Jael remained nearby, no longer cursed, but not quite mortal, a guardian in his own right. And Ife? She stood at the edge of the grove each morning, listening. Always listening. Because she knew, magic never truly sleeps. It only whispers. Glowing star, the end glowing star.